Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Bracken. I'm the president of the New Jersey State Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to the fourth in a series of webinars co-hosted by the Chamber and NJM Insurance Group that we've been holding during 2022. All of these webinars are looking at key issues facing small business in the post-pandemic economy. No shortage of issues facing the business community, and we've tried to tackle several of those. Over the summer, we surveyed our members to ask them to rank the issues that were bothering them in priority order. And not surprisingly, the labor shortage was either first or second on almost every one of the lists that were sent back to us. So today's discussion will focus on two unconventional sources to try to attack that problem. And we'll get to that in a minute. During the session, if you do have questions, please use the chat box to ask those questions, and we will get to as many of those as possible over the 60 minutes that we have allocated to this webinar. I want to thank NJM Insurance Group for being a great partner in this series. Throughout the year, they've been a great partner for us in this series. And they're also one of the most outstanding corporate citizens in the state of New Jersey. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jim Clancy, Manager Loss Prevention for NJM Insurance Group. And Jim will take it from here. Jim, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Good morning. As Tom mentioned, I'm Jim Clancy. I manage the loss control team here at NJM. I just wanted to mention that NJM is a proud sponsor of this webinar series, spotlighting the issues facing small businesses. I want to thank the Chamber for the opportunity to briefly speak with you today. The Chamber has been an essential voice for Garden State businesses for more than a century and a vocal advocate in the corridors of the chambers of the Capitol and Trenton. So, for over 109 years, we started in 1913. NJM has been helping small businesses meet their insurance needs. As you can see on the slide, we're the largest writer of workers' compensation insurance in New Jersey for more than 70 years. We're also a leading provider of commercial auto. We've written these two and only these two lines of business for the better part of a century. However, recently, we've added new products to serve our policyholders and potential new customers and remain competitive in an increasingly competitive marketplace. We expanded our footprint at the same time. We're also a leading regional insurer serving business customers in 6 states: Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, New York, PA, and of course, New Jersey. So right now, we've also expanded our product line. We offer, last year, we went in and offered NJM Pro Edge business owners policies, which combines the protection for common property and liability risks for smaller businesses. Just recently, we started the NJM Pro Pack commercial package policy, which protects mid to large size businesses against the same risks of property and liability. I did want to talk a little bit about the service that our team and the claim service provides. We have nationally recognized claims service and certified loss prevention specialists. Our focus on safety, which has been an NJM hallmark for years, is to help business owners identify and correct workplace hazards before the accidents actually occur. If an injury does happen, our claims and MSA professionals work to mitigate these losses and contain the costs. We take pride in aligning the right coverages for our policyholders and then sharing profits in the form of dividends. We want to help our policies grow and in turn grow with them. So if you're not an NJM business customer, I encourage you to visit our website, njm.com, to review our agent directory, get a free quote, and contact us with any questions. With that, I'd now like to introduce the morning's 2 speakers. Both lead organizations that can offer employers great hiring options. First, Thomas Baffuto, the Executive Director of the ARC of New Jersey. Tom has been with ARC of New Jersey for over 3 decades and has been its Executive Director since 1998. During Tom's tenure, the ARC has grown considerably, and he has conducted many successful advocacy campaigns and implemented many new programs. Keeping with the theme of this morning's webinar, one of the programs Tom started more than 30 years ago is Project Hire, which is now the largest supported employment program in New Jersey. Project Hire has assisted more than 3,000 individuals with developmental disabilities in finding and keeping jobs in the community. Our second speaker this morning will be Eric Eversole. He is a VP at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the president of Hiring Our Heroes, a U.S. Chamber Foundation program. The Hiring Heroes program is a grassroots initiative that helps veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses find meaningful employment in communities across America. Eric engages the program's private and public sector partners to connect businesses to the talented men and women transitioning out of the military and their spouses. Both he and Tom have some important and I think beneficial information to share this morning. So it is my pleasure to turn the proceedings over to Tom Baffuto.
Good morning, and thank you, Jim. Let me pull up my slides here. Jim, when you say that, 3 decades, it makes me sound like I'm old, but I've been around for a while and I've enjoyed this. And, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to join you here today, spend a few minutes talking about what we think is a great solution for small businesses as they're facing this incredible workforce crisis, and that's hiring people with disabilities. There's an incredible movement going on in New Jersey right now, including New Jersey legislature, business leaders like the Chamber of Commerce and NJBIA, and they're coming together, working with us to really address the high unemployment rates for people with disabilities. But on the flip side of that, helping businesses fill those, the needs they have out there and finding good employees to fill their jobs. So look, real quick, who we are. The ARC of New Jersey is the state's largest advocacy organization representing people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. We've been at this for more than 70 years of providing advocacy and support throughout New Jersey. We have local chapters in every county of New Jersey offering hands-on supports. As it would turn out, I started my career with the ARC, starting an employment program for disabilities. And I had the pleasure of connecting hundreds of people to jobs in New Jersey. And that has been indeed a pleasure for me. All right. So the question I get asked all the time is, why hire people with disabilities? And really the answer for me is it just makes good business sense. People with disabilities are an untapped labor pool of really highly motivated people that want to work, but have not been given the opportunity. And, I want to express that again. People with disabilities want to work. They need the opportunities out there. And we see this time more than ever as a great opportunity for them. So let's just talk about this. Individuals with disabilities bring an outstanding level of passion and commitment to their workplaces. As I said, they want to get out and work. They show a level of dedication not seen often in other pools of applicants. Hiring individuals with disabilities will bring your companies more diversity and inclusion. This benefits all parties in many ways. The individuals gain experience working in inclusive workplaces. Existing employees will have dependable and reliable colleagues. Management teams will be able to tap into universal designs and accommodations, and the community will be more willing to bring their businesses to you. As we discussed, the level of dedication and commitment workers with disabilities have, your company will also gain the benefit of reduced turnover rates. We all know the investment it takes to hire and onboard new employees, and how challenging it can be when our turnover rates start to climb. Individuals with disabilities have proven to be dedicated employees, stay in jobs where they feel comfortable and supported, and which will benefit your business in the means of reducing turnover rates as well. There's a vast and untapped market of those with disabilities that are looking for work, and they're eager to work. Their skill levels and talent areas are so diverse that you'll be able to find someone for each position you're looking to fill, while knowing that these individuals are dedicated and committed employees that will stick around with your support and understanding. As I mentioned earlier, customers want to put their business towards companies with strong values that give back to the community. By diversifying your workforce and including individuals with disabilities, you will see an increase in those wanting and willing to give to your businesses as well. All right, so let's just talk about some of the facts. Here's some data that's out there that we collected. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce study, companies with the most inclusive workplaces for employees with disabilities experienced nearly a 30% higher revenues and greater economic profits. The Department of Labor found that employers who embrace a disability saw a 90% increase in employee retention. According to an Accenture study that was done in partnership with the American Association of People with Disabilities, businesses that actively seek to employ people with disabilities outperform businesses that do not. Their revenues were 28% higher, net income was 2 times more, and profit margins were higher by 30%. And a common misconception, I hear it all the time, hiring people with disabilities, is that most, if not all, people with disabilities need workplace accommodations. In fact, only a small number need accommodations. Only 14.5% of employees with disabilities requested workplace accommodations, and most accommodations cost absolutely nothing and may include providing forms and written materials in accessible formats, flexible work schedules, or other specialized equipment or software. And, you know, it just keeps getting better because there are tax credits out there for businesses that choose to hire people with disabilities. There are 2 tax credits that provide a tax credit for making accommodations at your businesses, and there's a work opportunity tax credit that provides incentives to hire individuals with disabilities. The maximum tax credits range from $1,200 to $9,600, depending on employees hired and length of employment. So while we think it's a great idea to hire employees with disabilities, there are also incentives out there. You know, I got to be honest with you, just last week, I ran into an individual, a guy by the name of Bob, a gentleman I helped get a job 35 years ago. And I helped train him on that job. And he is still with this small food store, still doing that job. And I just couldn't believe it. I was talking to him. He's doing great. And when I was finished, a woman came up to me and she said, "Do you know this young man?" And I said, "I absolutely do." And she said, "You know, I shop at this store because this store hires people with disabilities, and that's the kind of companies I want to do business with." Now, this just happened to me last week, and it's just amazing that people are absolutely committed to companies that hire people with disabilities. All right. So the other question I get asked all the time is, what jobs can people with disabilities do? Now, you have to remember, folks with disabilities, all ranges, all walks of life. Some have college experience. So the jobs are, I mean, basically you name it. As we discussed, individuals with disabilities have a vast variety of skill and experience, making them highly qualified and dependable employees. You know, this can range from individuals who are skilled and motivated in office work, such as organizing, filing, cleaning, greeting guests, to warehouse workers, to human resource assistants, to forklift operators. If you have a business need, there's an individual who can fill it. And working with individuals with disabilities and their support systems will really allow you to tap into this underutilized labor pool of people with various skills, various experiences, and that we believe can meet your business individual needs. Look, we've got people working all over in the banking field, the retail field, warehouses, finance jobs, administrative assistants, manufacturing, food service, maintenance. You know, we have people throughout New Jersey working in jobs. And of course, we have Bob, who's working at a small food store up in Somerset County. It is a diversified group that can fill many of your job needs. All right, so I thought I would just share some quick tips that would help you recruit people with disabilities and add them to your workforce. And again, this is not exhaustive, but this is just some things that have come up for us that we think would help if businesses want to attract and hire people with disabilities. And I think first and foremost is job descriptions. The job descriptions and job postings have to be inclusive and accessible. You want to ensure that the main requirements of the position aren't obstructed or confused with language that may not connect with the requirements of the job. Remove requirements or restrictions that just don't apply to the job that would rule out people with disabilities. An inclusive job description should define expectations, identify potential accommodations that can enable employees to perform their jobs successfully and benefit all job seekers. Make sure your online applications are accessible with clear directive towards where people can go if they need assistance or accommodation to complete the applications. These online applications can be a big barrier for people with disabilities. And if possible, it's always helpful if you can provide an alternative application for people with disabilities. Social media platforms should be accessible and include perhaps stories about people with disabilities working at your companies, so you can see and set an example for other people with disabilities. Recruitment portals, online job banks can be difficult for people with disabilities to navigate. Make sure they're as simple and as user-friendly as possible. And you can improve accessibility with adaptive technology. Corporate websites add welcoming language, such as we encourage people with disabilities and others from diverse backgrounds to join our company. Pre-employment screening tools. These can be very difficult for people with disabilities to navigate and can rule out good candidates. Things like personality assessments and other tools like that are very difficult, particularly for people with developmental disabilities, autism, who just can't decipher and understand the question. And again, you don't want to rule out good employees who just can't navigate these tests. If you have a contact person who can answer questions and offer assistance, there's a great help in the hiring process. That would be great for people with disabilities. I also want to say that people with disabilities sometimes need some job accommodations, particularly flexibility in schedules. People with disabilities often tend to need public transportation, which, as you know, is not as flexible as we need it to be. So if you can offer some flexibility in scheduling so they can use that public transportation, it would be incredibly helpful. All right, so if you have jobs, where do you go if you want to reach out and hire people with disabilities? Well, there's a lot of resources I could give you, but here's two right out of the box. The Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services Business Outreach Unit is a great resource. We work with them all the time, and they provide tremendous supports to businesses. I listed contact information of the staff who do this. If you have jobs, if you want to do a job site assessment to see if it's appropriate for people with disabilities, whatever you need, this unit really does a great job. In addition to that, you can always reach out to the ARC of New Jersey. Our Director of Project Hire, Adam Kubler, does a great job. And if he can't assist you, he will connect you with someone who can. So these resources are out here. I'll share these slides when we're done, and you can tap into them. All right. So you don't have to do it alone. Businesses have organizations they can rely on to help. And that we call supported employment programs. Now, look, we have our own jargon in this world. So you may hear things like, if I'm working with a supported employment program, employment support professional. You may hear job coach. You may hear employment specialist. Just think disability employment consultant. And you'll sort of understand what we do. So how can a supported employment program help you? They will help you recruiting individuals for your businesses. Supported employment programs have a cadre of individuals with disabilities looking for jobs that we carefully match to jobs in the community that will meet their skill set and meet the employer's expectations. Supported employment agencies help with the hiring, with the onboarding. They assist in really all areas of the hiring process, wherever it needs to be. These employment professionals, these employment specialists go on the job with the individual and actually teach the job to the individual on the job site, help with the work immersion, help with the productivity, and they will stay on that job site for as long as needed until the individual learns the job. At that point, they will slowly fade off the job and then provide long-term supports. Many individuals work at a job and then they have opportunity for career advancement. Again, a supported employment, employment specialist will come on in, help with the career advancement, retrain the individual, and really, address any needs on the job. And of course, that leads to retention. The employee has this ongoing support that can help the individual with disability on a job. I urge you, there are a number of supported employment agencies out there. Certainly, we do supported employment. There's a large number of employment agencies out there. So look, I've just been able to give you a taste of the benefits of where to go to get employees, good employees of people with disabilities. Here is some contact information that you can see. But, I'll tell you the truth. What better way to do this than hear from an employer? I have with me today Nicole Engel. Now, Nicole Engel is with Inspiritech, and I will tell you, Inspiritech learned early on that hiring people with disabilities is a great thing for their business. So, Nicole, maybe you can jump on with us and offer some of your perspective here.
Sure, good morning. So Inspiritech is a inspired social entrepreneurship that adds value to the lives of disabled and disadvantaged persons, the destinies of our corporate partners, and the careers of our employees. We have more than 3 decades of experience using technology to level the playing field for people with disabilities and providing customers with high quality IT and contact center support services. Our heritage and history is the foundation upon which we continue to evolve and grow our services for both our customers and the disabled population. So to introduce myself a little bit, so I am one of the case managers. So what sets us apart from most companies is that we have case management actually embedded within the workplace culture of Inspiritech to provide the supports for all employees, whether they have a disability or not, to ensure that they have all of the supports and accommodations to be successful in the workplace. So what we do is we provide the support and resources necessary to overcome the inevitable challenges that you'll face as a person with disabilities. So we have a caring and comprehensive staff of credentialed social workers and case managers who serve as that crucial support team for all of our trainees and employees. So our human resource case managers, we use a structured approach to social work, perform comprehensive intake assessments, develop individualized work plans, and provide information and referrals to other resource agencies such as advocates for services, monitor training and progress in achieving case service objectives, and provide direct counseling. So we know that our trainees and employees often face unique challenges related to their disabilities that may require specific workplace accommodations, but they also face the same challenges that any working person does: transportation, childcare, medical care, accessible and affordable housing, and clothing. So we as case management, we are dedicated to providing the common and not so common resources necessary to achieve independence and excellence in the workplace. So we work really hard. I can say that this has been possibly the best company I've ever worked for. Just seeing the success stories of individuals who have just excelled and, really developed that confidence in being able to see their potential and us being able to support it and do wonderfully within the workplace and providing that support to individuals. It has really been absolutely wonderful.
So Nicole, you've been working with Project Hire, other supported employment agencies. Real quick, what are the benefits to Inspiritech of working with those companies?
We get introduced to individuals with a wide array of experience, as well as, you know, bringing all of the skills necessary to the workplace, and having those supportive relationships in order to provide the services to these individuals is really important, because it's comprehensive. We work together to make sure, you know, sometimes I'll email Adam and be like, hey, you know, brainstorm with him, you know, to provide any type of support or anything like that. Just being able to be a part of this community has been absolutely fantastic. And, you know, just relying on each other to be able to provide these wonderful opportunities for individuals.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us, giving the employer's perspective, and certainly Inspira Tech knows how to use supported employment agencies to get employees. So it has been a pleasure to chat with you this morning, but we now have another speaker, and Nicole, you'll be around for questions later,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's my pleasure now to introduce our next speaker, Eric Eversole, who's president of Hire Our Heroes program, to talk about the benefits of his program. Eric.
Great. Well, thank you, Thomas. And let me quickly just, I really want to thank Jim for that introduction as well at the outset of this meeting. As Jim mentioned, I am Eric Eversole. I am the president of Hiring Our Heroes and also vice president at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And I'm also a retired naval officer, spending a little more than 20 years in both active and reserve component service. Let me thank first and foremost Tom Bracken for setting up these important discussions on workforce development across New Jersey. You know, I can tell you from my lens at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the strength of the chambers are in fact our state and local chambers. And Tom, you and your team are leading from the front, and we're really proud to help support this effort and make today's conversation happen. And I'd be remiss not to thank Jim Clancy as well for supporting this as a sponsor. Again, our local businesses that help support these efforts really make a tremendous difference in the chamber's reach and how we connect with employers across the country. You know, from the veteran hiring lens, let me give you a broader landscape lens very quickly, and then really talk about some strategies and tactics about really being successful to bring veterans into your workforce. And I think a lot of what we've learned in the veteran employment space really applies to companies and especially small business efforts to hire all of its employees. And what I tell people when we talk about workforce development from a veteran lens, but also through our efforts to create diverse and inclusive workforces, is that we have to first and foremost realize that we have to meet people where they are. And you know, it shocks me that sometimes we don't do that. We announce initiatives that we want to hire veterans. We announce initiatives that we want to hire more diverse talent, and then we employ the same practices that we've been using for the last 30 years, and we end up with the same results. And so what I would ask, you know, the companies that are listening and everyone that sees this later on, is to really think about this from how the landscape of workforce has changed significantly, not only as a result of COVID, but what's happened over the last decade that has created these workforce challenges, and how do you place your company as the tip of the spear when it comes to new practices and procedures to get the job done. In the veteran space, this is really a transition of how do you go from being a company that's veteran friendly to one that's veteran ready. And I haven't met any companies that aren't veteran friendly. I just haven't met someone that says, I don't like veterans. But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily employing best practices and procedures to be successful in bringing and keeping veterans in their workforce. And for companies, it's really, it's the same thing that we learned in the military, which is we first, and I tell people, I tell service members this all the time, when you think about what's next, what did you learn in the military as to what the first step is? And that first step is always defining what your objectives and mission are. You know, what are you trying to accomplish based on the size of company you are, and what resources and tools do you have available to be successful? Smaller companies aren't going to be able to leverage the same tools and resources that larger companies are. It's a fact, and it would be cost prohibitive to do so. So when you think about, what you want to accomplish after you listen to Thomas and I today, think about this from what are your goals and objectives? And I think if you set that out from the outset, that will then drive your strategy and tactics, and it will ultimately make you very successful. And so that's the first lesson learned over the last decade of doing this. And I will tell you that on the tactics and strategies part, and even the larger what your objectives are, don't try to boil the ocean. There's no need to boil the ocean. Think about what are things that your team and your company can do almost immediately that gets some wins on the board, the proverbial low-hanging fruit, because once you start to get that muscle memory of doing well when it comes to recruiting underrepresented populations, those who are underserved, you will start to see a tremendous amount of success. And you have to start, when you think about that internal mission, those objectives, you really have to think about how well you're doing internally when it comes to your workforce, and how do you what do you need to do to become better at the recruiting process? And that really starts with thinking about what are the processes internally that you have as a company to really help celebrate diverse talent in your workforce, that inclusive environment. So that's where I tell most companies to start. When you think about what you're doing internally to be successful, is your house in order to really do well here? What are you doing for around Veterans Day from a messaging perspective? Did you send out a simple email thanking your veterans around Veterans Day? Or what do you do around Memorial Day? It doesn't have to be a parade. In fact, most veterans don't want the parade. What they do, appreciate is that kind of quick shout out that, thinks about their service. And importantly, it's not just their service in uniform, but what are they doing to help your company be better each and every day? And so recognizing employees, that simple task of saying, we appreciate what you do. And oh, by the way, did you know that Eric is a veteran and he served his country? Or Eric is a part of the National Guard or the reserve component, and he may not be here this weekend, but that's because he's got a really important mission with the New Jersey National Guard or whomever that is. And so that's kind of leads to the second point, which is, how are, in fact, you taking care of your employees currently when it comes to policies and procedures that help them succeed and really rise to the top in your business. For many people in New Jersey, obviously you have a pretty significant installation there at Fort Dix, McGuire Lakehurst. But a lot of your employees, your current employees and your prospective employees are probably members of the Guard or Reserve component. And, what are your processes and procedures if they get activated to help them navigate that process in a positive way? And I'm not talking about just the kind of legal requirements from, what the Department of Labor requires or from federal requirements. I'm talking about, what are you doing to help help that person and their family feel like their service matters? Because we all know it does. And it doesn't make it any easier for small and medium-sized businesses to absorb what happens when a Guard or Reserve member becomes activated, and that's one less person on your team. That's not easy. I grew up in a small dry cleaners in Indiana. I know what happens to companies when you lose someone like that. But, helping your employees know, look, it's going to be okay. We appreciate what you're doing, and we're going to work through this together, goes a long way towards easing what is a oftentimes tough time in their lives, as they have to think about putting down what they've been doing on a daily basis, both from a work perspective and their family perspective, to go off often to foreign places to serve their country. So thinking about that strategically is really important. Is your house in order on that side to help make sure that those people can serve with honor and dignity versus feeling like they're letting everyone down is really, really important. And then once you kind of take care of what you're doing internally to make sure that you have a place that a workplace that really is inclusive, one that helps them really shine and be able to bring their all of their experiences to bear in your workforce, then let's talk about the tactics and strategy around how do you recruit veterans and military family members. And from my perspective, the best way, number one, is how are you leveraging your current employees to help get the message out? If you have current employees that are veterans, what are you doing to help incentivize them to identify other veterans who may want to come work for your business? Because, I know from a small business perspective, a small business in many ways, and medium-sized businesses, it can be really a family environment. It's how we take care of each other. And so if you have great veteran employees or military spouse employees that are really crushing it, let those employees know that you really want to hire more veterans. And do they have recommendations? That's really going to be really important from a recruiting perspective. The other thing, and Thomas mentioned this with respect to persons with disabilities, thinking about the processes by which you reach out to prospective employees, whether it's through Indeed or other locations, to let them know that you're really committed to hiring service members or military spouses, also sends a very powerful signal as to your commitment to hiring a diverse and inclusive workforce. And we've seen great progress with companies that where little words do matter. Little words as far as, we really appreciate members of the Guard and Reserve to apply, or we appreciate veterans to apply, or, we're an environment that really appreciates people with diverse backgrounds, including, and sometimes that including can be a long list, and that may take you down a pathway that you don't want to go down. But those words and how you're reaching out is really, really important. I also will tell you that many really qualified and tremendous candidates, especially in the veteran and military spouse space, often don't get through an initial review process because their resume just looks different than what you're used to hiring. Doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing the work, as Thomas and Nicole mentioned. They could be really rock stars, but their resumes just look different. You think about the person who served, 20 years or even 10 years in the military, and maybe they were in the infantry, maybe they were, a security specialist. That doesn't mean that their only role in your company is one of being a security guard. And in fact, they could, manage a lot of roles based on their unique experiences. Great project managers, they're great leaders, they're great problem solvers. They're very resilient and they're very adaptable. And those things are, in kind of the current workforce and what we've seen through the pandemic, are critical to an ever-changing landscape of what's happening to businesses across the country. We need people who can adapt with what's going on a daily basis, because I'll tell you, what we were doing 2 years ago from a workforce perspective isn't the same as today. And so having that adaptability and that trainability and that commitment to your business is really important. And we know that veterans and military spouses bring that each and every day. And then, the last thing I'll tell you, and this is, I'll get to the plug for hiring our heroes, which is we are a nationwide grassroots organization. We do events and programs and work closely with state and local chambers across the country. We have dedicated assets in New Jersey. I have a program manager that runs one of our internship programs out of Fort Dix, McGuire Dix Lakehurst. And so that program is more focused on, it's an internship for active duty service members. Those programs don't cost anything for companies to participate. So if you're looking for some skilled talent, it could be a great opportunity. Now, those jobs that we typically place, at least currently, are for more of your mid-level management type of roles, people that you typically hire with degrees. But it could be a great way to find very, very good talent in New Jersey. And quite honestly, people who aren't currently in New Jersey, but are stationed elsewhere, but are ready to move back. And we've seen companies, big companies and small companies benefit tremendously from that program, whether it's the Lockheed Martins or the Prudentials, and even smaller businesses there in New Jersey really see some great talent from that program. So I'm happy to connect with anybody to talk about some of the tactical things that we can help you with. We have a database of over 200,000 people in it as well. And all of those things are really important, can help you be successful, but you really have to start with that up front, that mission, those objectives. And then once you define that, that's going to really set your strategy and then your tactics. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions and talk more in depth to anyone that has any questions. And I'll just, Tom or Ray, I'll just turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Eric, very much. In fact, there are a couple of questions that came in, one specifically for you I'm going to get to in a moment. But let me just say, Eric, first for you, and then we'll get to Tom in a moment with this question also. But having been involved with hiring the heroes from the chamber occasionally, what I found eye-opening more than anything else is the levels of responsibility that people in the military tend to have at very young ages relative to people, their counterparts in the corporate world, and at what level of experience they get the kinds of responsibilities that the military. It's amazing how responsibility is put on a lot of younger people there. And so I was just wondering, how do people in the military convey that to employers, that they have that kind of level of responsibility at very young ages?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody, and this was true for me too as I transitioned out. It's really hard to put "I'm a good leader" on a piece of paper and have anybody buy it. Mm-hmm. Seriously, I can. Yeah. In fact, I'd probably be laughed out of most interviews if I put that I'm a great leader or I'm a great problem solver on that resume. And when we think about workforce strategy, and I think this is especially true at a smaller, medium-sized business, when we think about recruiting strategies, how do we start to get past paper, right? How do we stop judging people based on what a one-piece or two-piece resume looks like, to really start to see how someone can really succeed in your business? And so as we think about tactics and strategy, I think part of this is, again, getting back, Ray, to leveraging your current veterans in your workforce to help you decipher these pieces of paper, right? Your current veterans in your workforce will tell you whether somebody could be a good fit based on their work experience or what they've done. That if you're not familiar with the military jargon, and as Thomas said, there's a lot of jargon in space, and no matter how much we train veterans not to use it, they use it. And, so your veterans are going to be your first line oftentimes to help you recruit that. And think about, is it worth having one of your team members who's a veteran do the first line of screening of that candidate to say, hey, look, this person, yeah, they were in the infantry, but they have these skill sets that are directly applicable to our business. And so we should give this person a shot. So, I tell you, this is a two-way street. It really is. And let me just, and sorry for just going a little bit farther on this, but I think having the background as to why this is hard for veterans is really important. For most veterans, and I'm one of them, neither of my parents graduated from high school. And so I went to college, I went to law school, I served in the military, but it didn't make the job search any easier for me because I didn't know what I didn't know about economic opportunity across the country. I knew what a factory looked like because that's where my parents worked. I knew what the small business looked like because I knew that. And that can be really, really intimidating for a lot of service members as they think about taking that next step. And so what may come off as disinterest is really fundamentally a lack of knowledge about entry points into your business. And so, helping them understand what you as a business owner need and want, and whether they're committed to that, or whether your veteran employees do that, will go a long way toward finding out who people really are and helping make them really successful in the near term and the long term. And again, I can't emphasize enough, and Thomas said this about people with disabilities, it's not because they don't want to work. It's not quite sure how they fit into your business or what the pathway looks like, or how much you're going to understand, what's going on. And so I think it's Tom or Ray, it's a really, really good question, but we have to get past paper when we start thinking about talent in this country.
Tom, let me go to you for a minute because I wanted to go back to one of the things you touched on fairly early in your presentation, which was the question of accommodations. When you're talking about hiring people with disabilities, that's always from the work the Chamber's done and my somewhat limited experience in that end, but that's almost always the question. I wanted to go back to that again. To what level or to what extent are there accommodations required for people that you would hire with disabilities? I mean, what percentage of them require some kind of accommodation that I would think is more than just small, let's say,
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are a number of experts, particularly that group I talked about, the DVRS Business Outreach Team. They can come in and look at what accommodations may be made to a job site. What we've learned, though, it's only a very small amount of folks with disabilities that need those accommodations, right? So from the studies, it said 14.5% request some kind of accommodation. And it could normally be a adjustment to the workplace, so the work setting, or flexibility with schedules. It's only a small number that cost money, but people can come in, assess what is needed, and then, as I talked about it, there are tax credits, tax deductions that are available if, in fact, major accommodations need to be done. It really comes down, Ray, to the essential functions of the job. As long as those essential functions of the job are very, very clear, then we can come in and look at what kind of accommodations need to be made.
Okay. And then this is a question for both of you, but I'll start with you, Tom. So let's talk some numbers in terms of perspective. The work pool of disabled people that employers in New Jersey can look at. What kind of numbers are we looking at?
Well, easily for people with disabilities, we're talking about thousands that are looking for work, whether they're registered with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, out there on their own looking for work, participating in a Ticket to Work program to get back to work. There are thousands of people with disabilities in New Jersey ready and willing to work if they can get the opportunity.
And Eric, from the standpoint of those who've mustered out of one of the branches of the military or whatever, to employers in New Jersey, I mean, what kind of numbers are we looking at?
Well, I think here's what I would ask everybody to do is kind of open your aperture as to kind of that military connected community. I mean, from the active duty side, you're going to see about 10,000 people per year who transition out of the service that will end up back in New Jersey. They're not all located at Fort Dix, McGuire, Lakehurst. They are literally all over the country. So that's the first thing, which is a lot of great local resources. Your local Department of Labor resources, your state resources are great, but don't forget the 50,000 plus people who serve in the Guard and Reserve components each and every day. And then let's not forget about military spouses. There's another 20 or 30,000. So from a workforce pool, and these aren't all unemployed, of course, but there's a population of somewhere between 80 and 100,000 plus people who fit as part of that military community that that are looking for good long-term economic opportunities. So you open up that lens. That Guard and Reserve component probably struggle the most significantly, and they are in your backyards and throughout the state.
Okay. All right. We had one question come in that was for Eric, but I think it actually can be extrapolated for both Tom and Eric to answer. The question was, and I will ask it this way to you, Tom: are there particular kinds of jobs that people with disabilities are either generally hired for or are looking for?
So I would say that they're looking for all types of jobs. Now, I work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, so that's a bit more of a narrow focus. And we're looking for jobs that are a bit more repetitive, that have a flow to them that we can train people on the job to do. But the broad array of people with disabilities out there really can fill any types of jobs. From many people have college degrees, many people are doing just a whole variety of jobs out there. So it's really not limited. Our folks that I work with tend to be more the service industry, retail industry, manufacturing industry, those kind of jobs. But again, I would not limit it. People with disabilities can fill all types of jobs.
Okay. And Eric, same question to you then about veterans and what kinds of jobs they tend to fill or look for.
Well, you can get anything from an astronaut to, robotics experts. But, I think what we typically find is that, your prime where veterans are tending to navigate very quickly is cyber and IT. Most of them are either trained or they're getting credentials and certifications outside of their military training. We have a great program with Google and one with Salesforce that helps train in those cyber and IT credentials. So we have a ready pipeline for anybody interested. Everybody has to have cyber and IT needs, right? To logistics and transportation, seeing a very heavy percentage of service members look at that industry. And then project management, as you think about whether it's, advanced manufacturing or consulting, a lot of our active duty service members who are transitioning land in one of those three career fields. On the military spouse side, I will tell you, we're seeing a lot of movement towards the cyber and IT. Again, we have a ready pipeline on that. The VA is investing heavily to reskill and upskill populations on those skill sets, transportation and logistics. And then HR. We have a great partnership with SHRM that's training HR professionals, both in service and the military spouse component as well.
Okay. And I have one last question for you both. Eric, start with you on this one. So came in on the chat line also. I'll just read it directly as we got it. In your estimation, is there true equal economic opportunity for the handicapped and disabled among minority groups in the Hiring for Heroes program, and then Tom also for the disabled?
Yeah, I'm going to emphasize something very quickly on kind of the minority side. On the military side, people tend to hold up service members on this pedestal and they forget about all their other experiences and who they are. That's a mistake. I can tell you right now that 45% of the people that we serve are service members of color. I know that because we track it. And so we are working very aggressively to create opportunities for veterans, especially those from underrepresented communities and from socioeconomic statuses that are often disadvantaged. We're aggressively working with those populations to create opportunities. And so that's a really important part of what we do. But as you think about, and look, there's a sizable percentage, about 5 to 10%, 15% of service members are service disabled. It doesn't mean that they need accommodations, as Tom's pointed out, but they are, in fact, 100% disabled service members as a result of their service. And so think about service as not just kind of the end result of the military part of it, but who they are that makes them unique and valuable to your workforce?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'm a big fan of supported employment, obviously, since I run the program, and that's a free service for employers. And we have service providers everywhere in the state, inner city, rural areas. So these programs are accessible to everyone. And our partners, the Department of Labor, Department of Human Services, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, are located, again, throughout the state in many areas. We're able to provide services to a diverse group of individuals. And, we're proud of the fact that we do represent everyone.
Great. Eric, thank you very much. And Nicole, also thank you for your time this morning and sharing your experiences with us. I think it was very helpful and actually put color to the we're trying to portray here this morning. So, and for everybody who's on the call, we are going to make contact information for both organizations available to you after the webinar. And if anybody has any questions and needs further information about this and or either of the organizations that we talked with this morning, please contact us here at the Chamber and we'll be glad to forward the information on to you. So Eric, again, thank you for your time this morning. Tom, Nicole, thank you also very much. Everybody who joined us this morning, thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.